Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the Ulysse Nardin Freak 2, also known as the Freak 288. You can see this carousel on our website, watchyouwant.com. Purchase it there. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. You can also click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time to see our full listing for this Ulysse Nardin Freak with additional accessories included, high-resolution images, and of course, complete pricing details. Now, on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, I have to say that this watch represents one of the most important technological breakthroughs, design innovations, and outright rebellions against convention in the luxury watch space in the last 30 years. There are a lot of Potemkin revolutions heralded by watchmakers, everything from a new case shape to a new metal to a mildly revised movement. The Freak was a genuine break with almost everything that came before it. Now, I'll delve into the depths of this watch's story in just a moment, but fit does come first, so let's talk about dimensions. The 2005 Freak 288, named for its oscillating frequency, was 2 millimeters larger than the original 2001 Freak. In terms of raw diameter, 44.5 millimeters versus the original's 42.5. Not excessively thick. It does have a little bit of a squat case appearance, but it's actually only 11 millimeters in total girth. So with a sloped case flank and bezel, it's actually an easy watch to wear underneath a tighter sleeve or dress cuff. It's not as thick as it looks. Now, from lug to lug, the watch does make up for lost ground. 54.5 millimeters, not a thick watch, but definitely a broad one. And because the strap has a little bit of a tendency to flare at its outermost edge, it does virtually extend the diameter of the watch. You can see how the strap nicely hugs the flanks of the case, so aesthetically it's very coherent. It looks all of a piece. There's no gap between strap and case, but you pay for it a little bit with the strap's tendency to flare out and increase the span, the lug to lug across the wrist measurement of the watch. Now, it is very hefty, and I mean very, very hefty. Entirely in white gold, with fairly thick lugs and a heavy profile, you know you're wearing a precious metal timepiece. In spite of the fact that most of the interior of the case is air, believe me, you don't forget it's on your wrist. Now, the strap and the buckle are of excellent quality. First of all, the strap is the famed Ulysse Nardin blue. The company likes to lean on its heritage as a manufacturer of precise marine chronometers and deck clocks, so the nautical blue is something of a company trademark. This is a very substantial strap, which you can see not only closes the daylight between case and strap, but also swells nicely as it abuts the lugs, so that there's a nice visual transition that's seamless. And it is a very substantial strap, definitely the upper echelon of alligator leather available in the market. And the buckle, likewise, is quite thoughtful, beautifully finished. It's actually a little bit delicate in appearance with slender swing arms, but it's very substantial in the hand. It has weight to counterbalance the heft of the watch head, and everything inside is either satin finished, as with the logo at center, or beautifully polished. Again, a great deal of thought went into this one, right down to the incorporation of the twin trigger release springs into the swing arm itself of the deployant. So this is a watch that is easy to wear on a smaller wrist by virtue of the double deployant clasp. You gain back a little bit of the ground you lose with the flare of the strap and the width of the watch across the wrist, because this clasp doesn't have the one big up and over of a single fold. Plus, when it is closed, it has twin trigger release, so it has to be positively released, plus the low profile of a pin buckle. So as audacious as the design of this watch is, it actually looks quite traditional, looks like a pin buckle when it is on the wrist. Now, the watch is interesting because, like every Freak, it's essentially all movement. You're looking at the UN 200, one of the first in-house calibers produced by Ulysse Nardin in the modern era. It followed the original Freak 1's caliber, but the bottom line is that what you're looking at is essentially the entire 38 jewel movement pivoting on a carousel, not a tourbillon. The watch is often called a tourbillon. This is not entirely the case. The carousel was actually a wristwatch-specific invention created by the Dane Bonne Bonnichsen in the 1890s, the idea being that it was somewhat more appropriate to the wristwatch format than the tourbillon itself, which was designed by Abraham Louis Breguet for pocket watches during the late 18th century. Now, the key detail of the carousel that makes it different from a tourbillon is that the power for the balance and the power to rotate the carousel assembly come from different trains, so different sources. So if you stop or move the carousel, you don't stop or alter the balance. And one of the other differences between the Freak 1 and Freak 2 is that this little tab added at 6 o'clock was added to the design because with the Freak one you could just turn the bezel, and the bezel on this design rotates the entire carousel assembly. You can see the minutes and you can see the hour hands. And true, it's a little bit interpretive, a little bit perhaps out there in terms of how hours and minutes are displayed, but make no mistake, once you get familiar with the watch, it becomes easy to read it at a glance. If nothing else, that might be the biggest and most massive minute hand in the history of wristwatch horology. Now, of course, this little tab, once it's closed down, locks the bezel in place, but I should mention that because this is a carousel, you can move it without interrupting the timing of the watch. Again, the carousel, wristwatch specific, pays dividends here. Now, the watch also features a free-sprung balance, as you can see. But that's merely a formality. It's a refinement. It's not a revolution. The revolution is actually between my thumbs, between the largest bridge and the second largest. If you can see the iridescent blue escape wheels, both of them just above the golden balance, that's what this watch is all about. The use of alternative materials within an escapement, operating completely unlubricated. This is known as the dual Ulysse escapement. It succeeded the dual direct escapement of the first generation Freak, operating at a higher oscillating frequency, 28.8 versus 21.6. It's also more durable, as the teeth have been reprofiled, and rather than a direct impulse as used on the first Freak, this one does use an oscillator to impulse the balance. It's far, far more stable. Now, the watch retains the famed 7-day power reserve of the original Freak with a gorgeous guilloche and lacquered flinke cover to the actual mainspring barrel, which comprises nearly the entire caseback of the watch, and there's a little observation window that acts as a sort of impromptu power reserve scale, so you can see how tightly coiled the mainspring is, and just like the bezel itself, you rotate the caseback to allow winding of the mainspring. It has 7 days of power reserve when fully energized. This watch really did represent a revolution. It's important to note that the Freak family, debuting in 2001, launched a full 5 years before Patek Philippe even had the nerve to delve into synthetics in the movement, and that with the advanced research series that began quite timidly. The Freak, by comparison, dove headfirst, incorporating so many unique design elements, engineering refinements, and even the boldness of portraying time using the entire movement as the minute hand. This watch changed the game, and it changed the landscape. You can own a truly historic timepiece, a real revolutionary, on our website, watchyouwant.com.